Good morning, Center Point. We are so glad that you've joined us this morning. If you're new or haven't had a chance to connect with us yet, we would love to get a chance to say hello to you and get to know you better. You could text the word welcome to the number 513-466-1676. You'll get a text message back from us with a link that you can click on. If you follow that link, you'll fill out a short form, and we would love to tell you a little bit more about Center Point and send you a Starbucks gift card over email.
And as the school year has now kind of come to a close, we wanted to do something special throughout the course of the summer and highlight a couple of our senior students as they have now officially graduated high school. And so this morning, we wanted to start by recognizing just a few of those students. And they are, first off, Nathan Simon, who is going to be going to Ohio State University. And then we have Molly Riggs, who is going to be attending Miami University. And of course, Chris Meyer is going to be attending Shawnee State University. These are just a couple of our seniors. We're so proud of them, and we would love to highlight your senior. If you'd like to do that, feel free just to email me, and I'll reach out and give you some information about how we can highlight your senior. Hey, this morning, as we finish up our series, we have an awesome interview this morning with Pastor Shawn, who sat down with our executive pastor, Mike Tolle, and our missions pastor, Dan McSwain, just to talk about Unique and what that looks like. So hope you guys enjoy.
Who breaks the power of sin and darkness, whose love is mighty and so much stronger, the King of glory, the King above all kings, who shakes the whole earth with holy thunder, who leaves us breathless in awe and wonder, the King of glory, the King above all kings. This is amazing grace. This is unfailing love, that you would take my place, that you would bear my cross, you would lay down your life, then I would be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me, all that you've done for me. Who brings our chaos back into order, who makes the orphan a son and daughter, the King of glory, the King above all kings. Who rules the nations with truth and justice, shines like the sun in all of its brilliance, the King of glory, the King above all kings. Oh yeah, this is amazing grace. This is unfailing love, that you would take my place, that you would bear my cross, you would lay down your life, then I would be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me, all that you've done for me. defeat, He conquered the grave. Oh, worthy is the Lamb who was slain. You're worthy, worthy, worthy. Yeah, this is amazing grace. This is unfailing love. That you would take my place, that you would bear my cross. Oh, you would lay down your life, then I would be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. All that you've done for me.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining me here. So we are socially distanced. I think at least. I don't know. You you got to stretch out a little bit more, maybe.
That's right.
So
you've got our heads are definitely wingspan.
Yeah, so. Definitely 6 feet.
Spittle.
So yeah, no spittle. So we just wrapped up. Dan just wrapped up for us our 6-week series on a clear view into the true you. And this series is based off of a process called Unique, which we talked about a little bit in this series. And so really today what we want to help people understand is what Unique is all about, because it's kind of a next step for folks. So I know through this process, some people were probably super encouraged, that other people were probably a little frustrated about, okay, what is my purpose? And the series doesn't necessarily answer that. It answers it in a general way, that we said our life finds meaning and purpose only in relationship with God and other people. Like, those are the two things. If one of those is missing, life is going to be empty and unfulfilling. And we want to help people get that right. And so in general, we know that we are part of our purpose is we're connecting to God. The other part is we're connecting to others. I mean, Jesus said it. Love God, love people. That's what life is all about. And so we want to help people, in that direction, and then understand how they are uniquely designed or wired to live that purpose out. And so Unique, I believe, helps with that. And so I'm here talking with you guys because, Dan, you not only went through Unique, but you're a trained facilitator, and then you, Mike, recently went through Unique. And so I think you guys have a unique position.
I see what you did there.
Yep. To help people understand how powerful this tool is, and where to go from here. So let me just start with you, Dan. So why don't you give us kind of an overview of what Unique is, and then we'll dive into some deeper questions about the process.
Yeah, so Unique is a tool or a series of tools designed to answer, I think, the two questions that everyone is asking, whether they know it or not, whether they're intentionally trying to seek it out. That I think inside or outside of the church, these two questions are: who am I, and why am I here? Mm-hmm. Who am I, and why are you here? Whether you're a believer, have been a believer in Jesus, or you are not interested in him at all, never have been, not even, you've just heard that there was this teacher named Jesus. I still think everybody's asking those questions. And so then you go to, well, how do I figure that out? And I think culturally, there are lots of substitutes, there are lots of paths that people can choose to try and figure that out. I think identity is one of the huge issues that people are wrestling with. You see, culture is trying to label people and give people a pseudo identity or an identity other than what they've been given by God. They've created us into groups, into segments, and that's how you identify yourself. You're a part of this group or that group, or you do this, or you live here, and that sort of thing. But then the bigger question is, why am I here? What is all this for? And again, I think culture has removed some of that. And so for a lot of people, they get to the end, or when they start to imagine the end and go, what was all this for? What did I accumulate all of this stuff? Why did I accumulate all these stories? Because at the end, if there is no greater purpose than life, then there's no looking back. It's just done.
Right.
Like it was just nothing. Like it was just nothing. Like, all right, at best, or on average, I spent 80 years doing stuff.
Right.
What for? Well, yeah. Does it last? Does it go anywhere? And unfortunately, culture would say, well, there is no creator, there is no afterlife, and so then it's just done. What is the point? Why do anything? Right. And so one of my hopes before finding Unique, I had this thought was, and why isn't the church where people go to answer those questions? Why can't the church be the place where people go to find out who they are and why they're here? And so Unique ultimately becomes that tool and experience that I found to help me personally answer that question. Like at any point you can jump in, but I know for my journey with Unique started almost 3 years ago. I had just turned 41. So those of you that are keeping track and thinking about how we're kind of told, one of the tools, and we might be able to show some slides of this so you can picture it, but like, our lifelines, are kind of set up 0 to, let's say, like 80. And then there's kind of like the bell curve, so you've got this way. So I'm at 41, I'm about halfway. But then the other way we kind of measure time is with that bell curve. And so we've got 0 on one side, 80 again, 82 or so on the other. And I'm peaking out and I've crossed over.
Admit it, you're on the downside.
Yeah. And so life would say, hey, like you're on the other side of things.
Yep.
And so I'm 41. I just transitioned out of student ministry into missions. So all of my life experience and education and my journey here at Center Pointe was around that. I was invited in to take on a new adventure that I didn't know anything about, that was exciting, but there was no roadmap of like where that was going to lead. No clear target at the time. Around a lot of other things. I'd been at Centerpointe at that point, I think 7.5, maybe 8 years. And so I'm coming up on the longest stretch of time that at this point I've lived any place. And I'm asking these questions, like, who am I? As much as I knew my job wasn't my identity, I didn't know who I was. I was like, who am I if I'm not doing that? I kind of walked away from my people and was, kind of in this wilderness phase. And so I just didn't know what was going on. We definitely, and might be an opportunity for more details later on in this process, but our personal narrative was struggling a little bit. And Unique was an opportunity to go away for a life plan to figure things out. And at the time, I didn't realize it. Looking back on the experience, I had put so much pressure on myself. And that week that I spent in Atlanta going through this process, I needed it to solve me, to figure things out, because I didn't know what the next 40 years of life looked like. And I wasn't honestly sure if the first 40 years was what it was supposed to look like. Mm-hmm. And I'm standing on this pivot point at the top of what I've been taught as a bell curve, going like, well, it's downhill from here. My best years are behind me. And man, is this the best for me? Like, is this the best for my family, for my wife? What is my life going to be about? And so that turns into an experience that I feel like God said, buddy, this wasn't just for you. Like this is my hope for everyone. And the hope, not that it's a miraculous tool or a miraculous experience, but that it's a tool to help people figure out who they are and why are they here. And that's what I think God wants everyone to know about.
Yeah.
Because when that is known, there's clarity and there's purpose around the highs and lows, the goods and bads, when tragedy hits or strikes, and you know who you are and you know your purpose. And just like Jeremiah, during this series, telling the people, I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. But by the way, the next 70 years aren't going to get any better. Right? Like, it's going to be hard, but this isn't the end. Like, it gives you this perspective of knowing that 85 or whenever that time comes isn't the end. Mm-hmm. Like, it's the beginning. Like that beginning and end period is means so much.
Yeah. And getting back to your question, what is unique? It's an aid and a tool to answer the questions of identity and purpose. And that's really hard to do, throughout this series where you're speaking to hundreds and thousands of people to answer that question. We've talked about that in general, to our relationship with God, to love God and love others, to glorify God and to make disciples of others. That's a general message for us all. I think the question we all ache for is, what is the specific identity and specific purpose? And walking through Unique and the collection of tools helps answer that question for every individual that journeys through it. And that's why, because churches, at least, in our network and in our history in life, have tried to figure out ways to equip people with those two answers. What is your specific identity and purpose in this life? Yes, we know you're meant to glorify God and to serve and be good news and multiply and make disciples. Yes, we know those two things. But what is that for me specifically? And as a church, in general, we've struggled to do that. Unique provides a collection of tools to help any individual discover that, and within a finite period of time.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it, is it fits within a discipleship pathway that allows people to identify not only who they are, but what they've been designed to do as it relates to the general calling of glorifying God and making disciples.
Yeah. So let me ask that question then, because you guys have been through the process. What did you discover? And this is for both of you. What did you discover? What about your divine design? So unpack that a little bit.
Well, for me, I geek out over all personality assessments, and I just think the moments in life where I have grown the most spiritually is when I've learned more about myself. It has showed me either my strengths or my weaknesses and how to navigate life, either leaning into them or leaning away from them. And Unique has helped provide the tools to discover things and patterns I was unaware of. And when you're unaware of, you just think that's how life is or how I am, as opposed to realizing how either life has shaped me, either through my internal wiring, but more specifically through events that have shaped me and shaped the way I cope with life or the world. And so some of those specifically for me is looking at chapters where I faced a series of very difficult things as a young adult, and decided I was going to deal with those by being strong and coming out the other side as a winner. And Dan's chuckling over here because he's helped me process through some of those. And so I've unintentionally looked through those lenses my whole life. You've got to be strong and you've got to win. And so therefore competitive nature, and there's nothing I don't want to win at, and I take joy in that. And so my daughter says I'm a bad winner and a bad loser. And some of that is just a product of how I've decided to cope with the world that I wasn't aware of until you exercise some of these tools and that was just one tool that helps shape a little bit about who I am, good and bad, but to navigate around the weaknesses and lean into the positive those things bring.
I think it was week 2 of this series where you talked about the things that we try to be, the expectation of others,
the false versions of ourselves and stuff. I feel like I've spent the majority of my life trying to make up for who I am, trying to be who others expect me to be. And like I mentioned before, I went into this experience, basically my prayer to God was, man, I need this to work, because I got to figure this stuff out. And so all sorts of tools. And the way that I went through this experience, I went to Atlanta. I spent 4 days at a conference site, and it was basically 9 a.m. till 9 p.m. We're sharing meals together with a group of people, and kind of go to bed with assignments and wake up knowing that we're going to have to report out work that we had done, because it's a group experience, and that's one of the things that make it work. But one morning, the facilitator, Dave Rhodes, who's leading me through it, did a devotion from the book of Psalms. We started the day with the passage of scripture, "Be still and know that I'm God." And he basically said, "Hey, this morning I'm going to
read through this passage and just want that to be your prayer, and ask God, what is it? What do I need to hear from you? What do I need to know from you? And as he read that passage, be still, know that I'm God, he would remove a word and just challenged us. Hey, if at whatever point you feel like the Spirit is saying something to you, just linger there. And he got to be still and know. And I felt, and I know this sounds weird for some, and others are like, oh yeah, I'm all about, feeling and hearing and all that kind of stuff. That just hasn't been, hearing a word from the Lord or that sort of thing hasn't been part of my faith heritage. And it wasn't an audible word. It was just my spirit that stopped. And what that experience, that moment, changed everything for me. It was an answer to every prayer before, and it has been, it has guided me through the rest of the journey. And I felt like God said, I designed you to be a gift, not a burden. Like I went in there to figure out how to fix me. Because I was convinced that, man, who I wasn't enough for me, for my family, for my church, for my extended family. Who I wasn't enough, in the first 40 years. And, as I'm staring down the next 40, it's like, and I don't know what needs to happen in the second half, but I got to figure out this experience this week has to figure it out. And in that moment, man, it was like, man, I designed you. Who you are is a gift, not a burden. And that really unlocked the rest of this experience and was a gift to me to be able to say, hey, this isn't about fixing you. This is about actually releasing you to be who you are. And not about finding a new job or a new career, a different career that I've been doing the wrong thing, but to really say, it's how you do whatever you do. Yeah. And that is like what this experience is about. It isn't, a job placement tool. While it might help you figure that out. Like for me, this was unlocking the way I do life, the way that I parent, the way that I husband, spouse, the way that I'm a pastor, but also the way that I neighbor. Yeah. So the way that I do friendships, that I had been designed a certain way. And while it's easy to create puns, like once you start using the word unique, oh, it's a unique process, you're unique, everything becomes unique. But again, it starts with identity. And I think that's where the breakthrough comes. A lot of people want to skip to the end and go straight to purpose. But if you don't know who you are, you're never going to truly find out what you were designed to do. Yeah. It was this beginning piece of saying, hey, like there's only one Dan. Mike mentioned it earlier about the specific calling versus a general calling. In my experience in life, the way that I've taught students or adults, we've told people, hey, you need to make disciples. But we haven't been able, from my perspective, told people how they specifically were supposed to make disciples. And I believe unique it is that experience. It is the set of tools that it is designed to help people figure that out. Yeah. To answer that question, well, okay, if I'm supposed to do this, how? Yeah.
And it's not about you got to have a different job because it doesn't mesh with who you are. That's not what we're talking about here. vocation is not what we're talking about, but back to who you are and what you do, and identity being at the core of that so many people have this mistaken identity, and we mistake who we are for what we do. But the reverse of that is that, no, what you do doesn't define who you are, but be who you are in what you do.
Absolutely.
And that goes for everything.
Yep.
Be who you are in the job, in the vocation that you have. Be who you are in the neighborhood you live in. Be who you are in the position you serve in church. And I don't want to mistake that for, just do you. That's that's a catchphrase in the culture. But this idea of who God has made you to be, and I'm reminded again as Jesus says, "Go and make disciples." It wasn't the commandment wasn't go, right? In the Greek, it's as you are going.
Yep.
And again, I think that has this element of be who you are as you do the thing I've called you to do. And that's really what we want to help people begin to unpack and discover who God has made you to be, so that you can do the things that He's called you to do, even in your vocation.
It provides clarity, this tool. And I can imagine putting myself in the shoes of people that may be watching us right now that are feeling teased or just itching for just tell me what my purpose is or what my identity is and this sort of thing. And it's just not that easy. It's why you have to go through it as an individual to discover that. But what it provides as you journey through it is clarity. And there is this sense of when you have clarity on who you are specifically and what God has designed you to do, there is a what Scripture calls shalom. There is a harmony. There is a wholeness. It provides a lens in which you can filter all the decisions in life through. And it's really all about who God has called you to be and what He has called you to do. And so it really is through providing a God-centered lens through which you can make decisions and inform the decisions you have in life with a lot more clarity than you had before. And so you have this sense of peace, shalom, wholeness, and harmony to the decisions that you're making, where before you're just grappling at what that is, thinking that you have some idea about it, where this provides words, phrases to articulate exactly, specifically who you are and what God has called you to do.
Yeah, so let me bounce off that for a minute, because I'm now at the end of and I haven't gone through the journey myself. Yeah. But you come out with 2 words, I believe. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So to what you were talking about, these 2 words kind of articulate kind of what your purpose, your calling is.
It sums it up.
So give me those 2 words for you guys.
You want mine first?
Go for it.
My 2 words are instigating joy.
Now, instigating, I totally understand.
It's
you
true.
Are an instigator.
Right,
So,
but not joy. You don't get the joy.
no. I'm just teasing. No, I see those because you do bring a lot of joy.
Yeah, and so the process would have you speak those 2 words in a sentence. And so I've been created to honor God and help others through instigating joy, right?
Right, and God and others.
There's that general
Yeah.
calling for us all to honor God and help others, right? But then it's a little bit more specific for me to instigate joy. And it's a lot of hard work landing on 2 words that sum up who you are and what you're called to do.
Yeah, and I think during the group question time, that was one of the exercises during the series. But it was kind of like, hey, take a few minutes and dream about 2 words on a sheet of paper. You go through this experience, and I mean, people have hundreds of possibilities that are collected through the process of maybe this, and it is a huge experience in refinement of getting to those two things. So they weren't just thrown on a wall and that's what stuck.
Right.
Yeah.
But here's what I like.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And again, this is part of how I'm uniquely wired. I love to laugh. I love to tell a good story. I love having fun. And so part of that, and joy is one of those fruits of the Spirit that when you're connected and in step with the Spirit and you're connected to the vine, joy is a byproduct of that. And so when you talk about how it's connected to my role, not only am I called to lead that way as an individual, but I'm called to lead others to produce the fruit of the Spirit. That is joy.
Right.
And I'll do anything, including instigating, to make that joy happen. And you guys know, as my friends, how I'm just naturally that way. Yeah. But this is part of it. You become self-aware as an individual, and then you become emotionally aware and relationally intelligent on how you deal with others. But then even beyond that, when you start leading groups of other people, you're now leading organizations and things like that, or a church, to help be agents of good news and joy, and arranging things around producing that kind of good news. And in my view, in my lens, that's what I want the world to see in us as Christians, but collectively as Centerpoint. I want want them to see us as good news, as agents of joy. And if we can do that as a church, and I think we do it in so many ways, but if we can improve on that and build on that, boy, we are going to accomplish the mission that we want to at Centerpoint. Yeah. That's why I think it influenced me in that process of entering into this role.
Yeah. Well, what about you, Dan? What were your 2 words?
I exist to honor God and help others by inspiring possibilities.
Okay.
And so you get there, there's a sweet spot tool that lots of assessments, lots of exercises, but it takes your passion, your abilities, and then your context, and kind of creates a 3-circle overview. And your sweet spot is where you end up, and kind of end journey 1 with a series of informations. And at the bottom of that sweet spot tool are those 2 words. And when I look back on life and the things that I have naturally done in relationships and experiences, and are inspiring, coming alongside of people, and the idea of possibilities of, like what could be, one of...
the cool thing is to see that happen inside of Unique, to see him, inspire possibilities of the individuals that journey through Unique. That's one of the best things about watching Dan work through this. Yeah.
Well, it's fun for me, again, and I haven't gone through the process.
Right.
But to hear your words and to know you guys personally the way I know you, and I go, oh yeah, right? Mike Tolle, instigator of joy, makes total sense. Dan, inspiring possibilities, because I've watched you do that for years here. And I know the backstory of Project Manana, and which is a mission that we support in the Dominican Republic that we wouldn't had it not been for you. And I'm not even sure Brian would be in the Dominican if not for you.
Not to mention others.
Yeah, there you go. Inspiring possibilities. All the stuff that we're doing right now to serve and love and bless our community is you inspiring possibilities, and now seeing our church begin to imitate some of that. And so, and I'm just, I love watching that, and then hearing again the process. You both were already doing these things.
It's that clarity,
right? You had clarity to it. You put language to it.
You can name it, right?
Yeah, you can name it.
Right. Most people I know, if you were to ask them what they do, they would give you a list of tasks that would describe a generic job or a responsibility, but this isn't just for pastors or church people. Like this is for the bus drivers, the garbage men, the stay-at-home mom, the accountant, the CEO, the school teacher, the principal, whoever. Like this is how you do what you do.
Yeah.
I've had lots of different jobs. I haven't always been a pastor.
Yeah.
I've cleaned pools. I've been a barista. And I go back to just all those things that happened, and I go, man, that's how I would be a pool cleaner.
Because what you do doesn't matter at the end of the day.
No.
It's how you do what you do, and making sure that whatever you do, do it as you.
Yeah.
So it's starting to sound like Dr. Zeus here. But we get that backwards so many times, and defining ourselves by what we do. And that's what we want to reverse for folks.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love hearing the process from you guys. So we've talked a lot about identity here. Now let's talk about the purpose. So there is the who am I? Now there's the what am I here for? So talk about that piece. How does this process help you discover that piece?
For me, it just provided tools, but also the accountability and a plan to carry out the goals that you're discovering along the way that you want to accomplish, that God has designed you to accomplish, and then helps you map out exactly the plan to go about doing that. And so writing that down, holding yourself accountable, being in a community, and it's not some slap your wrist if you don't succeed in this or whatever, but you are motivated at this point because you have clarity to carry out the plan. And I'm on the early end of that plan. Dan, in many ways, is on the tail end, and it's so cool to see how his plan is playing out. And I don't want to steal your thunder, but it's cool to see the end of the journey in an example like Dan for someone who's at the beginning of the journey of some, at this action plan. But it really is just giving you the plan and a roadmap and ways to hold yourself accountable to accomplish the things you've now discovered you're designed to do. And so it's fun.
Yeah. So as we begin Journey 2 during the life plan process, I ask a question. Like there's kind of two, and you can play along at home. There's kind of two broad groups of people. They're dreamers. Ask where are the dreamers at. Have them raise their hands, and then there's the planners. Have them raise their hand, and so kind of the issue and the reason that those two groups don't always get along or work well together is because the dreamers have never seen a plan inspired by a God-sized dream. But the planners have never seen a God dream, with a workable plan.
That's true.
And so this takes those two things, and what has been so good for me is that Unique wasn't a moment in time. Even though I went to Atlanta and went through a process and experienced it, I came home with a reproducible tool. So going back to what Mike said about me kind of being at the end of the process, I'm really kind of at the beginning. Like this is something that has become a way of life for me. So I left my experience, the life plan, and had a 3-year vision or a 3-year plan for life where I wanted to be family, professionally, 3 years. So 2021. And so January will be the end of that. Mike just started, and the group of people that I conned into being the test subjects so I could practice coaching people and leading this process. They're on the beginning of making their 3-year plan happen. And so...
And you're the dreamer category.
Right.
And the 3-year plan that you're on the tail end of, you have worked that out. Not perfectly, but bumps and roads, but there is definitely results that we have seen, like you mentioned.
Well, and I want to hear about some of those. 'Cause
Yeah.
I know there were specifics that you put in play to begin the plan.
Yeah.
And you're coming up on the 3-year. And I think this is where I think this gives some credibility to the process.
It gives tangible examples of how the plan works.
Right.
Even for a dreamer.
Right. Well, so talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind. Share some of your story of the plan that you came out with, and now, what's been the result of that? What's been the fruit of that?
Yeah. Well, again, I went into this process going, man, I need to figure this out. This needs to work. And again, the weekend, it wasn't a mystery. It wasn't some mystical thing that I just went through it and it solved all my problems and it told me who I was. It's a lot of work. And that's one of the things that some people will decide this isn't for them because it's a lot of work. It's time. There's financial investment.
And we talked about that in week 4 of the series, right? Investment. Like if you really want to be serious about finding God's call on your life, your specific, unique call, it requires investment on your part. You've got to do some things. So we start out this journey saying it's kind of got there's 4 paths around it. There's the courage to know yourself, experience to grow, value to show is the 3rd step, and risk to go. Not necessarily to leave, but risk to take the step, like the boldness or the courage to
carry out the plan.
And so I dug this up today, so it's changed, and one of the tools is a Horizon storyline tool, and I think we'll be able to maybe show some pictures of these so you're not just wondering what in the world I'm talking about. But this is what I said, and the 3-year vision was a broad, descriptive brush meant to inspire and dream. So 3 years is farther than you can see. It's the other side of the mountain that you hope you're planning for. Things could change, but I can put myself to this task with God's help. This is where I want to be. And so some of this language might sound funny to people because there isn't context, but I said I want to be a spiritual Sherpa by 2021. And so by 2021, I'll be a spiritual Sherpa guiding my family out of financial and relational debt into our desired future, embracing friendships and relationships as we move toward our own clarity and calling. And we want to be debt-free. I want to get back to a healthy weight. I actually wrote down 175 pounds. California was
you've lost a ton of weight. I don't have to give them that much, but a ton of weight.
Yes. Well, it's a little embarrassing to talk about just because it's weird to have the attention. But I've lost 64 pounds.
But the thing is, including me, there's a ton of people out there that need that kind of tangible example of somebody who has set up this goal, and it's been spiritually motivated, but it has been practically applied to your physical health.
Yep.
And it's a great example, man.
Yep. And again, just to clarify, Unique isn't a weight loss program.
No.
but it gave me.
But it can work for you too.
Yes. It gave me a tools and a pattern to make that happen. I wanted to have clarity around my responsibilities and roles at work. I feel like and it's a little awkward sitting between the two of you, but I feel like the last year of my time here at Centerpoint has probably been where I was being the most me, where I embraced not just my job and got things done, but I got things done being me. It gave me clarity around how I interact with missionaries, how I engage with our local partners and our global partners. How do I have conversations with Centerpoint people about engaging on a life on mission? And so that just helped me do that. It gave me clarity around how do I be not just a husband, but how do I be Kristen's husband? Mm-hmm. So Kristen went through this process this last time. But so knowing like who she is, understanding her identity, gave me clarity and understanding, again, not just how to be a good husband. You know, a lot of times, and I'm sure over the next year, we'll do a series on relationships, and we'll talk to men, we'll talk to women about being husbands, fathers, wives, you know, all that kind of stuff, but which is great. But this is how Dan, my role as husband to Kristen, is unique, and it's special to only her. You know, it's not a generic husband. And so anyways, over 3 years, this gave me the tools and processes to get here. We paid off debt in record time, and most of the credit goes to my wife for working the system. But I left Atlanta with a plan and steps that were achievable. In the past, it was like, man, I just need to get out of debt. I'm sure there's an app or a spreadsheet. This made it accessible. My first step going home wasn't to get out of debt. It was to find somebody that's willing to guide me out of it. Because I could tell you how I got in the mess, but there's no way I was going to be able to guide myself out. Mm-hmm. And I needed not just someone that had the smarts, but the unique relationship with me that I could trust with the guilt and shame of the predicament that I got in. Mm-hmm. The beauty of this is for someone like me who's a dreamer, you know, there are all kinds of people that don't understand that because they're a planner and there's steps and that makes sense. Like I knew the destination was to be out of debt, but I had no idea how to get to that point or make it happen. And in the same way, Unique created process for me to make steps and goals at work. It gave me a plan to say, hey, every 90 days I have a new goal. And that's one of the beauties of this, the Horizon storyline. Again, it gives you a 3-year picture, and then it gives you underneath that 4 one-year goals, and then it gives you a 90-day goal, and then 4 weekly goals. Mm-hmm. And again, here it was 3 years. This was 3 years of my life that I reviewed on a regular basis and kept marking things off.
Yep. It's connected to your calling, and maybe that's a piece of why just big brush statements don't work. I don't even know what word I'm looking for there. Edit that out. Broad stroke statements don't work. I want to get out of debt, or I want to lose weight. Like there's got to be a why connected to it. Yep. And the why is connected to who God's called you to be and what God's called you to do. And that's a why that's a why that God honors, and God has honored that in you. And man, I commend you. That's great work. It's hard work. It's an investment, and and it's paid off for sure.
Well, and it helped me order the process. Probably in the past, I would have gone straight towards physical health and tried to figure out what plan to buy into, what workout program, what gym to join. But I knew the key to everything else was to dislodge the burden of debt that it had put our family on. It made me a bad, not a good husband. It just complicated everything. Yeah. And as that began to free up, there were all sorts of other goals and steps. I knew through this process that this unique could be an unbelievable tool for Centerpoint to use in our discipleship process, like equipping everyone. But I also knew that not everybody was going to be able to do what I did. Not everyone has the time or the financial resources to go out of town for 4 ways and go on this journey. And so I wanted part of my goals, which was amazing the way this all worked out, because this series and all this stuff wasn't the long-term plan. This really was a pivot during the pandemic of where do we go? I joke around, it's like, man, I've been talking to people about Unique for almost 3 years, and it took a pandemic to make it happen. Thank you, God. But part of it was, how do I can't just tell people about it. So I invested in the training to go back to be able to teach people how to do it here, to be able to lead people through the process. And so removing the barriers for other people to have this experience was part of that plan and part of my vision to be able to lead leaders through this process into their own clarity and their own calling. And so at some point you got to ask, do I have a life worth imitating? And I feel like it feels really awkward to say this, but thanks to God and the tools in the Unique process, it made those things accessible to me. To that dreamer, that person that sees the vision but isn't always sure of the first step or even the next step. It created, it connected that God vision to an accessible plan that was simple to understand. That, again, if I can figure it out, anybody can.
So one of the things that we wanted to do is incorporate Unique into our discipleship pathway, because at the end of the day, that's what we're about here, is making disciples who make disciples, and we feel like this is a great tool to do that, which is why we're talking about it. So let's give some practical next steps for folks who really want to dive in. Like what can they do?
Yeah, well, right now we kind of have 2 options. So there is an option for community groups to go through together. If your community group wants to go through I think probably the best word for it is like a taster. It's kind of like an accessible, shallow end. It's more than the series. All right, so the teaching series was kind of the menu board outside of the restaurant. The primer is kind of like the sampler, the sample platter or the I'll be fancy, amuse bouche, the small bites.
Yeah.
That's you're not expecting me to throw in French, but
and I took French in high school, but
yeah, that's because I'm so classy. So the primer is designed to start you on the journey. You use some of the tools, but it's not the complete process. So that is available. That's something community groups can do on their own, in their own time frame. Whether it's this summer, next week, or a year from now. And at some point, that will probably be an ongoing elective that starts this conversation about understanding who you are and what your purpose is. The full experience, which is, again, it is in depth. It's a time commitment. There's going to be some financial commitment to it that we're going to start offering it this summer over 2 weekends because there's multiple parts and you need to go to both a weekend in June and a weekend in July. If you want to be part of this and can't do it in June and July, we're also have it on the calendar in January and February. Okay. And the full experience again, is going to be a recurring process for our people to go through to gain clarity around who they are. And the hope is every time we do it, we're going to have another graduating class. And so the group of people that kind of went through it with me as a test group to figure out how to do it at Centerpoint, come January, when the next class is going through it, they will be celebrating their first year. They will have gone through 4 quarters or 4 90-day goals and will be a third of their way through their life plan. And so as one group is getting ready to graduate, another group will be celebrating. They'll have a 1-year anniversary. And so part of the power in this is doing it together, either a group of strangers or couples or friends that are having this clarity, together and making these plans and having these dreams. It is just amazing to see what happens when you have this shared experience. And so those are kind of the two options right now. And again, they will be recurring and options that continue to be developed. And as we have more people that have gone through it, and there are people that want to help facilitate or coach, like Mike, several staff people went through it with me so that I could train them to be coaches to help facilitate it, because it's a lot of work it's more work than is feasible for one person. And so we need coaches to help facilitate the tools. And so it will be a growing, ongoing experience.
Yeah.
All right.
So with that information, a little bit more details about what it looks like to go through Unique. We've set up registration forms for people to go on and register for that right now. Yep. And whether it's for this summer's full journey or next winter's journey, you can schedule that on your calendar and go on and register now.
Hopefully we didn't make it sound like it is this dreadful,
right,
course load of work that is this burden. It's a fun, interactive tools process where you're learning and sharing. So it is a lot of time and there is work. It's not a dreadful experience.
No, it's a lot like playing a hard sport. There's a grind to it, but it's a lot of fun in the process. It's not always easy. You're going to work up a sweat, figuratively speaking, in this process, but it's a lot of fun. It's a really rewarding, and so definitely worth it. And I would encourage anybody to jump into that full experience, whether this summer or next winter, and get online early because there's limited spots. So.
Yeah, we need at least 10 people, and we're going to create a waiting list after 25.
Okay, awesome. Well, I look forward to seeing what this process does as folks go through it, and ultimately how it begins to shape our church. As people really discover their identity, their true identity, and their why, their purpose, and that's why we're investing in it.
Yeah,
because it's part of why we exist here, and when people can understand their position as a child of God and their unique calling in the kingdom, that's when we start to see, generational change.
Yep.
So looking forward to what the process does. So thanks, guys, for having the conversation. It was fun.
Thank you.
Yep, it's great. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, today we want to teach a new song, and we hope that it can be something that will be a companion to you in this season as you bring your questions before the Lord, as you seek hope in this time, as you seek His direction. So we invite you to sing along with us. Bring your shadows and every shackle, lay them all down at the empty tomb, and bring your stresses and every question, and lay them all down at the empty tomb, at the empty tomb, and watch what He will do. Watch what He will do. If He conquered the grave, then there's nothing too great. Watch what He will do. Oh, just watch what He will do. And bring your passions and every treasure, lay them all down at the empty tomb, at the empty tomb, and watch what He will do. Watch what He will do. If He conquered the grave, then there's nothing too great. Watch what He will do. Oh, just watch what He will do. You better get ready for a miracle. You better get ready for the joy. You better get ready for revival, 'cause it's coming. Oh, it's coming. You better get ready for a miracle. You better get ready for the joy. You better get ready for revival, 'cause it's coming. Oh, it's coming. You better get ready for a miracle. You better get ready for the joy. You better
Thanks for being here today. We would love to be able to connect with you. And we have a couple ways that you could take next steps with Centerpointe. Even though we are not here in the building, there are still ways for you to connect. If the things that you've heard this morning have made you feel like you're ready to take a next step with Jesus, whether that means beginning a relationship with him or learning more about baptism, you can text the word decision to 513-466-1676. Someone from our staff team will reach out with you, and we'd love to have a conversation with you to let you know more about what either of those things look like. We also have some opportunities coming up in the next week for you to connect in and know more about Centerpointe. This Wednesday night at 7 p.m., Tammy Phillips, our Next Gen pastor, is going to be hosting a Connect Your Kids class. So this is a class where you get to hear all about what we do here at Centerpointe for kids birth through 12th grade. Tammy's going to go through some of our philosophy about kids ministry, why we do things the way we do, and share with you some of the really special things that make Centerpointe unique and how we engage with your kids. If you're interested in being a part of this class and hearing more about what we do, you can go to the I'm New page on our website, and you can click there to sign up for the Connect Your Kids class. Also coming next Sunday morning, we have another Guest Connect event. This is a live Zoom call with Pastor Shawn and with me, where you're going to get a chance to connect with him, introduce yourself, hear a little bit about the vision of Centerpointe, and for us to tell you about next steps to connect in. Again, these are things that we love to get to do in person, but because of us not being in the building, we still want to give you opportunities to connect. So if you're interested in joining that Zoom call, you just need to text the word Zoom to 513-466-1676, and we will send you that link to join us next Sunday morning at 11 a.m.
And this morning, obviously, you guys are in your homes, we are here, and so we're not together taking communion as a whole as we normally do every week. But you can still take communion on your own and participate in that. And I hope that you guys do that together as a family. If you want more information about communion or what that might look like, we have a video that kind of walks you through that process and what that means. You can find that in the description below or on our YouTube channel as well. And so we would just love for you guys to participate in communion with us. As we continue through this season of COVID-19 pandemic and the chaos and the craziness, we want to keep you up to date with everything that's happening here and everything that we're kind of putting out there for you guys as far as when it comes to COVID-19. So you can find information that you need on our website. Just click on the COVID-19 page when you get to our website, and everything that you need to know is going to be right there. You can find information about kids ministry and student ministry and the curriculums and stuff that we're working on right now during the summer. And just any other information that you might need when it comes to COVID-19 or our response is going to be found right there on the website. So we'd encourage you to check that out. Hey, and last but certainly not least, tomorrow night, June 1st, our elders are hosting a prayer night right here in our church parking lot, kind of a prayer night drive-through from 6 to 7 p.m. And so if you want someone to come pray for you in person, just drive right through the parking lot. Our elders will be here. They would love to speak with you and pray for you, pray over you, maybe pray over your car. If you're having car issues, I don't know, maybe that's why it's a drive-through. I'm not 100% sure, but I love the idea. So you should totally take them up on that offer and join us tomorrow night for prayer night with our elders here in the parking lot, 6 to 7 p.m. So thanks so much for joining us. We hope you guys have a great week, and we will see you next week.
Bye, Centerpointe.